Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. I've got a good one for you today that I think most men will be able to relate with, and that is marriage boredom. Why doesn't my relationship feel exciting anymore? How do we find new things to talk about that are actually interesting? What if we don't share some of the same passions? Why is sex stagnant or non-existent? These are all really good questions, but there are a few things we need to understand first. Number one, let's talk about what the experience of boredom actually is. And number two, let's talk about what's happening biologically as you move through a long-term committed partnership. So there are a couple of definitions that I really like for boredom. One is that boredom is an inability to focus. And you can think about your own experience with boredom in your life. What does it feel like? For most people, it's like a restlessness. You may want to move, just go do something. Maybe you're trying to complete a task that you don't like and you want to be done with it. Even though you might be sitting on the couch, it's like you have energy that wants to move. It wants to do something, anything. And you might be paralyzed with options, or you're physically and mentally tired. Either way, boredom is synonymous with discomfort. And you can compare this to how you feel when you're not bored. When you're doing something you really love, you're focused on it. It might feel like nothing else matters. For me, that can be playing pickleball. I have to focus on this little plastic ball that's flying around, and I'm not thinking about anything else. That experience has an energetic charge that feels good, and you have whatever it is that you like to do. Now, one common logical conclusion you could make is that I don't feel bored when I do things I like, and I feel bored when I'm doing things I don't like, or when I can't do something that I do like. But that's not entirely true. I figured this out about 10 years ago when I first started a daily meditation practice, which, if you do struggle with boredom, I'd highly recommend. And the reason being that there is a lot more to our experience than we realize if we know how to access it. In theory, meditation is one of the most boring things you could do. You're sitting down, but you're not sleeping. And the practice is to not do anything. You're just focusing on your breath, watching your thoughts, looking out across the room. And within that, it's possible to find an immense amount of joy and gratitude and curiosity and awe. You start to get in sync with your body. You start to notice patterns of thinking. It can feel like watching an interesting movie. I've had many moments where I was sitting there noticing a recurring thought, something stressful. Usually it'd be something about money or growing our business. And then boom, I'd have this awareness that my mind is just doing what it does. And I stopped taking it so seriously. Oh, there it goes again. Sometimes I'd even laugh at myself. And then I would come back to my breath, feeling the coolness of the air traveling in through my nose and out through my mouth, watching my respiratory system working autonomously. And I would be in awe of that process and the colors in the room. I could get so intensely focused on one little dent in the wall, and voila, I had cured my boredom in that moment with focus. Now, that doesn't happen for the entirety of all my meditations. I don't meditate every day anymore. I did for about 4 years, but I did crack the code on boredom. It has very little to do with what I'm actually doing. It has everything to do with my ability to focus. And you don't have to take my word for it. I suggest you practice this yourself and start to notice your own relationship with boredom. Instead of picking up your phone in every transition in life, just stop. Take a few breaths. Notice where you are, how you feel. Even if you feel bored, this practice can make it feel less boring because there's still a lot of information coming in when you feel bored. The other definition I like for boredom, and Jenny gave me this one today while we were on a walk, is that boredom is an inability to express yourself. And this can definitely happen in relationships. Over time, there might be rejections and ruptures, messages that have been given to you, or things you've said or done that have damaged the safety in the relationship. And you can feel less inclined to really be yourself and express yourself in your relationship. If this is happening, of course, you're going to feel bored because you're going to be constricted. You might fall into a role of being the people pleaser or the complainant, and that's not going to feel good in your mind, body, and soul. So I like this definition too because it balances boredom out, and each definition complements each other. We need to be able to focus and we want to be free to express. The more couples I work with, the more I see this happening to varying degrees. And it really can suck, especially if you don't know how to remedy it. It can feel hopeless. We do the same thing day after day, same fights, same patterns. I've automated them, they've automated me. We think we know what each other is feeling and thinking, and we have gridlock. And whereas it might seem logical to approach the external factors in the relationship, let's create more date nights, let's go on some trips, do something romantic, buy each other gifts. That can mix things up. There's no doubt about that. But for me as a coach, and I think Jenny would agree, we're really focused on trying to figure out the ways in which couples try to communicate and express and how that is received, while also helping couples develop the skill of focus and mindfulness, because those are the things that are really going to build connection as you begin to set aside more time to be intentional with each other. Now, I want to focus on the issue of our biology, because in a lot of ways, we're quote unquote set up to feel unhappy and bored in our marriages, at least compared to the beginning of the relationship. For instance, you're probably familiar with the brain chemical dopamine. In the first few weeks to few months of a relationship, your new partner becomes your primary reward. The dopamine creates excitement, pleasure, focus, and even a craving to be with your partner. But this naturally declines after 6 to 18 months. And people tend to equate this with love. When you first meet someone, you might think they're the best person on planet Earth. Everything about them is great, and they feel the same way about you. Now, I'm not saying that both of you are not great, but a lot of this is going to be the dopamine talking. It really is like a drug. Same effects on the brain. People might even give up some of their responsibilities to spend time with their new partner. You're low-key addicted to them, or at least the chemicals that are produced when you think about them and when you're with them. And there can be a natural withdrawal process as the chemicals wear off. I'm not saying that this is how it goes for everybody. Some people might have not experienced much of this, but many people do. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't enjoy it. Of course, the courtship process should be fun, but it can be a red flag if your new partner totally consumes your life. There are also brain chemicals like norepinephrine and phenylethylamine, also known as love amphetamine, that produce similar feelings. These also wear off after the first few months. So I say this because when couples come in to see me or us and they want to get back to where they used to be at the beginning of their relationship, I have to remind them that that's not going to happen in the way they think it might be possible. Because after these chemicals wear off, that's where the real work starts. You have to create an environment and daily practices that build in some of that novelty that you can experience as you grow together and learn more about yourselves and each other. It might not be as intense or easy, but it is possible. And the chemicals are not the goal, they're just a factor. On the other side of the coin, you have brain chemicals like oxytocin and vasopressin, bonding hormones that can increase over time as you build more security. They promote long-term attachment and loyalty. They can be experienced through touch, sex, vulnerability, and shared experiences. This project is possible. Maybe not for everybody. It works best when both partners are all in. But I find that individuals often underestimate the impact they can have on their couple's dance by just changing themselves. You can have a better experience in this relationship, regardless of what happens. Whether you stay together or not, or continue to grind for a bit longer, my theory is that boredom is really a cue to put more effort into your ability to focus and express yourself, and not totally unbridled self-expression. Sometimes people think that saying what's on their mind all the time is like a good thing, but I disagree. If there's no skill involved, there's going to be a lot of garbage in there. And the skill comes from our ability to focus on what's most true and what's most important. So if you're just saying shit all the time, you're probably not in much control over it. And you're going to say things that are untrue, less true, and probably not important. The president of the United States does that, and we're seeing how that goes. That's all I have for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you think this podcast would be helpful to a man in your life, please share. It doesn't really matter much to me if I get one more listener, but you never know. It could change the trajectory of someone else's marriage or life. So be brave and share if you think it could. If you want more info on the men's groups that I run, I'll include my website in the description. It's a great place to start and practice. I'm there every night. You get me live in person. I keep it interesting. That's all I have for today. I'll see you next week.